I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the man I had just married, Chris, a cold, unreadable, and completely uninterested man. Our marriage had been arranged by our families, but he hadn't even looked at me during the ceremony. Now, in our dimly lit room, he finally spoke. "This marriage is just for our families. I won't force you into anything. You can have your space, and I'll have mine." He grabbed a pillow and left for the couch. My heart sank. Was this my future? A loveless marriage with a stranger? Chris barely spoke to me, but he spent hours locked in his study. One night, I heard him whispering on the phone. "She can't know. Not yet." My stomach twisted. Was he in love with someone else? I tried opening his study door the next day. Locked. What was he hiding? I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I looked at Chris, I felt like I was living with a ghost. But then, things started to change. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and found him cooking. His sleeves were rolled up, and I caught a glimpse of his strong forearms as he chopped vegetables. "You cook?" I blurted. He looked up, startled. For the first time, he actually smiled at me. I had to learn. Couldn't survive on takeout forever. That was the night we ate dinner together, like a real couple. Then, one stormy night, the power went out. I fumbled in the dark, cursing under my breath when I nearly tripped. Strong hands caught my waist, pulling me back against a firm chest. "Careful," Chris murmured, his breath warm against my ear. I froze. His hands lingered on my waist, his grip tightening. For a man who wanted nothing to do with me, he was awfully close. When the lights flickered back on, he pulled away, clearing his throat. Like he regretted touching me. But I didn't. And that scared me. After what happened yesterday, I couldn't stay away from the locked study. I needed to know before I fall in love with my husband. One evening, when Chris was out, I found the spare key in his drawer and unlocked the door. Inside, I expected to find love letters or proof of an affair. But what I found was worse. A folder with my name on it. Inside were photos of me, some recent, some taken without me knowing. My breath hitched. There were letters, documents. The door creaked. I turned, my heart slamming against my ribs. Chris stood in the doorway, his blue eyes dark and unreadable. My hands trembled as I flipped through the documents. It wasn't just pictures of me. There were pictures of my little sister. Old ones, new ones, taken from a distance, some from years ago. My blood ran cold. Why did Chris have these? The door creaked open to see my husband, Chris, standing at the door. I spun around, my heart pounding. "What the hell is this, Chris?" He exhaled slowly, his gaze dark and unreadable. "I was going to tell you, just not like this." I slammed the folder shut. "So, tell me now. Why do you have pictures of me and my sister? What have you been hiding from me?" His jaw clenched, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not coldness, not indifference, but fear. "'Cause I've been protecting you." My breath caught. "From what?" Chris ran a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. "From the man who took you when you were little." I froze. Number, that was impossible. That was a nightmare buried deep in my past, something my parents never spoke about. Something I barely remembered, just flashes of cold darkness, the smell of mold, and a blurry image of a boy's face. A boy with blue eyes. That was Chris. My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" Chris's voice was quiet, but heavy. "I was there. I was the one who found you." The world tilted as his words sank in. "You... what?" My voice barely came out. My husband, Chris, sat down, resting his elbows on his knees. For the first time since we married, he looked vulnerable. "You and your sister were taken," he said, his voice low. "I was a kid. I didn't know what was happening at first. But I saw him take you into that old storage room. And when I saw you tied up, He exhaled sharply. I panicked. I ran and told someone before he could stop me. A memory surfaced. Small hands untying the ropes. A boy whispering, "Don't make a sound. I'll come back." My stomach twisted. "That was you." He nodded, his expression unreadable. "After that, your family became paranoid. The kidnapper was never caught, and they knew he'd still be out there, watching, waiting." The air felt too thick to breathe. "So, they forced us to marry?" Chris's gaze locked onto mine. "They asked me to marry you." I agreed. I swallowed hard. "Why?" I asked. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because I wanted to keep you safe. Because I..." He trailed off, looking away. My heart pounded. "Say it." Chris clenched his fists. "Because I've been in love with you for years." Silence. I should have felt betrayed, but all I felt was overwhelmed. All these years, I thought he was indifferent. But the truth? He had been holding himself back to protect me.